Aravas would bend over on top of the Mizbeach. So the Aravas stood side by side, leaning on the walls of the Mizbeach. That's why they had to be quite tall, around 11 amas, which would be very tall Aravas. Hard to find such willows. You're dealing with between 15 or 20 feet. I mean, you're dealing with tall Aravas that stood up at the wall of the Mizbeach. They went over the Mizbeach. And the Mishnah says, and every day of Sukkot they would go around, they would make a hakafa. They would encircle the altar once and say, Ana Hashem Hoshiyana, Ana Hashem Hatzlichana, or according to Rabbi Yehuda, Ani Vohu Hoshiyana. This is all in Masechta Sukkah. And on the seventh day, Shvi Shal Arava, the Mishnah says, on the seventh day, they also had the Aravas on top of the Mizbeach, on the side of the Mizbeach, but they would encircle the Mizbeach 7 times, not once, and they would do this on the seventh day, even on Shabbos, not only during the weekdays, even if the seventh day fell out on Shabbos. Once the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, the mitzvah of Arava of Torah was nullified, because the halacha of Arava is to place the Aravas by the Mizbeach in the Mishkan or in the Beis HaMikdash. There's no Beis HaMikdash. The mitzvah of Arava was one of these mitzvahs that was not practiced anymore because of the circumstances. However, as a Zecher L'Mikdash, as a commemoration they did in the Beis HaMikdash instituted, so the Gemara says it's either a Takonas Nevi'im or a Minig Nevi'im. The Nevi'im in the beginning of the second Beis HaMikdash, Anshe Knesset Agdoyle, Chagai, Scharia, Malachai, who were during the era of the Churban Beis HaMikdash, when there was no Arava anymore, Churban Bayis Rishon, they instituted that there should be a mitzvah Arava, Zecher L'Mikdash. The difference if it's Takonas Nevi'im or Minig Nevi'im is if you make a bracha. If it was a Takonas Nevi'im, we would make a bracha. The halacha is we don't make a bracha on the mitzvah of Arava. Why don't we say Asher Kedeshanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu al mitzvah Arava, just like we do with Hanukkah candles, or with reading the Megillah, or with saying Hallel, as we did today, or with any other mitzvah d'Rabbanan, because it wasn't a Takonas Nevi'im, it was a Minig Nevi'im. It's two views in Masechta Sukkah. And just like they made a commemoration for the mitzvah of Arava, not all 7 days, but one day, they made a second commemoration for the Beis HaMikdash, and that is the hakafa they do around the bimah. Just like in the Beis HaMikdash, they used to encircle the Mizbeach every day once, and every day of Sukkot, we do a hakafa around the bimah in the shul, and Hoshayna Rabbah, we encircle, we go around 7 times, just like in the Beis HaMikdash. This is another institution that they made Zecher L'Mikdash. One institution was to take an Arava on Hoshayna Rabbah on the 7th day, and to hold the Arava, and to daven with the Arava, to clap the Arava, chayftin as Arava, to bang the Arava, to pound the Arava. And the second thing is to encircle the bimah every day once, and Hoshayna Rabbah 7 times. The circlings, called hakafas, are of course accompanied with the texts of Hoshaynas, in which we daven, we beseech, we request, we pray, and we sing. And the Gemara already in Masechta Sukkah Daf Lamed Gimel calls the Daled Minim, the Agudas Halulav, the Lulav, and the other Minim, the Gemara already calls it Hoshayna. The Gemara already calls the Lulav and the other species Hoshayna, because when they would go around, why is it called Hoshayna? Hoshayna means please help. Hoshana, Hosha, help, no, please. Hoshayna, because they would go around with the lulav and they would say Hoshaynas. On the 7th day, they went around 7 times. They said more Hoshaynas. Today, there's many different nuschayas, many different texts of what you say on Hoshayna Rabbah. But I believe according to all the versions of davening, all the communities, you repeat the Hoshaynas of the first 6 days in addition to the 7th day Hoshaynas. And that's probably the reason most authors give why the name became Hoshayna Rabbah, even though the Mishnah calls it Yom Shvi Shal Arava. Why is it called Hoshayna Rabbah? Hoshayna Rabbah means many Hoshaynas, or the great Hoshayna, or a lot of Hoshayna, because simply many Hoshaynas were said on that day as they encircled the Mizbeach 7 times and as we encircle the Bimah 7 times. This is all Hoshayna Rabbah when somebody learns Mishnayos, Gemara, Masechta Sukkah, and the Rishonim Lahalach. But then there's a whole other component of Hoshayna Rabbah that ostensibly has no source, not in Mishnah, not in Gemara. It comes from Zohar. And that is Hoshayna Rabbah as a semi-Yom Kippur, a new Yom Hadin, a day of judgment. It's a different Hoshayna Rabbah. It's not only the 7th and last day of Sukkot, the last day to shake the lulav and esrog, the last day when they used to put the aravos in the Beis Hamikdash. It's a whole different experience. It's a day of judgment and therefore a day of forgiveness. And the first source we have for this is in Zohar in Parshas Tzav. It's in your first source sheet. You could see the words. If it's a long shtickle in Zohar there, I took here one line. Zohar daf lamed aleph amid beis in Tzav. Ubeyomer shviyah de chag, on the 7th day of Sukkot, hu siyume de dinne da alma. That's the culmination of the din of the world. The Yemei Hadin, the days of judgment that began on Rosh Hashanah, continued throughout Aseret Yemei Tshuva, and ostensibly were finished on Yom Kippur. Chasmeinu? No, it's not over yet. What's the expression? It's not over till it's all over. Hoshayna Rabbah, that's Siyume de Dinne da Alma. That's the end of the judgment of the world. Upiskin nofki mibei malkin. That's when the kvitlach, the tzetelach, the notes come out from the house of the king. What the Zohar says is, there is the time when you write the contract, there is signing the contract, and then there is delivering the contract, sending out the contract, transmitting it. So the Rosh Hashanah is the ksiva. It's written, Avinu Malkeinu Kasveinu. Yom Kippur is the chasima, the sealing of the contract, the signature, it's signed, but it's still in the judge's chamber. It still didn't go out anywhere. It doesn't have an impact. Nobody knows about it yet. Hoshayna Rabbah, Nofki Piskin Mebei Malka, that's when the Piskin, the documents, the shtoros, the decrees go out from the house of the king, which is why in many communities the custom is to wish a gittin kvittel. What's the connection between a kvittel? After Yom Kippur, suddenly it becomes not a Gmar Chsima Tova, but a Gittin Kvittel. So people who are used to it are used to it, but you have to understand that for the uninitiated, they come in. So a few days it's Ksiva v'Chsima Tova, then suddenly it changes to Chsima, Gmar Chsima Tova, then suddenly it changes to a Gittin Kvittel. So this is based on the Zohar. There's a time to wish a Ksiva Tova, there's a time to wish a Chsima and Gmar Chsima Tova, and then there's a time to wish a Gittin Kvittel. The time kvittel, which means a note, piska is a note, a zettel in Yiddish, or a kvittel, that's what goes out on Hoshayna Rabbah. When you read Hoshayna Rabbah, Masechta Sukkah, there's no zeicher for this. Hoshayna Rabbah is part of Yom Tov, it's part of Zman Simcha Seinu, it's the 7th day, it's the last day before you start a new Yom Tov, Shmini Atzeres, which is both independent and not independent, as the Gemara explains in Sukkah Daf Mem Ches. Shmini Atzeres is both a continuation, and for 6 things it's not a continuation. Pazer Koshev, it's independent, as the Gemara says, the 6 things in which Shmini Atzeres is independent. But the Zohar says no, it belongs to the category of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. It's the final day of judgment, and therefore it's the final day of atonement. And as a result of this, in Tur even, and in Shulchan Aruch, and in Rishonim and Acharonim, there's another dimension to Hoshayna Rabbah. As it's brought in Halachin, Tur and in Shulchan Aruch, the various minhagim and customs of Hoshayna Rabbah. People say a guten kvittel. It says laharbes b'mizmoirim. People say the whole tilim. It says lias niurim kol halayla. People are up the whole night of Hoshayna Rabbah. Some people have a minig to wear a kittel. Some of the Rishonim bring that there was a minig by some people to say in Hoshayna Rabbah Zachreinu l'chayim alachafetz b'chayim micha moicha v'rachaman. It becomes a semi Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Some people daven longer. I mean, everybody davens longer. It's a very long davening, but the different Hoshaynas with different bakashas and different slichas and different kaparis. Almost like a mini or semi-Yom Kippur. It's interesting that there's a Yerushalmi that already indicates that Hoshayna Rabbah is a unique day outside of being Yom Tov. Yerushalmi Rosh Hashanah, Perek Hey Halacha Ches, Oisi Yom Yom Yidroshim. Yeshaya Navi says, for me, Oisi, for me, they search what day. Yom Yom, day. So the Yerushalmi says there's 2 days that Jews search for God. Zutkiya va'arava. The day of Tkiya and the day of Arava. So the Pnei Moshe, the great commentator on Yerushalmi, says, Yom shel Tkiya v'Yom shel Arava, shahakol boyim l'spalo yachad b'beis haknesses. Twice a day that Jews come together to daven in shul. Rosh Hashanah and Hoshana Rabbah. It's interesting, not Yom Kippur. So when he says, Oisi Yoim Yoim, you come for 2 days, you remind yourself about me, it's Rosh Hashanah and Hoshana Rabbah. We know the concept of Jews who come 3 days a year to shul. It's a well-known phenomenon in America and other communities. 2 days of Rosh Hashanah and 1 day of Yom Kippur. But here you have to add another day, and that is Hoshana Rabbah. I don't know how popular Hoshana Rabbah today is in the culture that comes Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but the Yerushalmi says Rosh Hashanah and Hoshana Rabbah. So you see already in Yerushalmi, not only in Zohar, that there's something Yom HaRava that you come to shul for. So we have 2 Hoshana Rabbahs, or to put it differently, a tale of 2 Hoshana Rabbahs. We have Hoshana Rabbah in classic Mishnayos and Gemara, where it's part of a Yom Tif, and there was a special mitzvah of Arava that was done with more oomph and more details than the first 6 days, in terms that it was done on Shabbos. They did it 7 times around the Mizbeach, and the Zecher Bizman Hazeh. And then you have in Zohar a day of judgment, the day that the documents, the edicts goes out from the chamber of the judge, so it's a day of atonement. According to the Zohar, Hoshana Rabbah, besides this Yerushalmi, which is a hint, it's a psaremes, that it's similar to Rosh Hashanah, the whole institution of Hoshana Rabbah as a day of din and kapara seems to be exclusively Kabbalistic, which may be the case. It's not the only thing in Judaism that's origin is Torah Hanista, Torah HaKabbalah, but in Nigla, in other words, in Shas and Poiskim, before the Zohar, you don't have any element of this of Hoshana Rabbah. That's how people thought throughout history. There's like 2 Hoshana Rabbahs, and as so many things in Jewish history, they come together in the Cholent